I'm Becky Beggs with Stage 4 Studio. You can go to stage4studio.com if you want to check out some cancer t-shirts, cancer accessories, things like that. I am the president and founder of that company, and we have started a YouTube channel to be able to hopefully inspire and uplift people who are going through some difficult times, and to give you hope. And today I have with me Syndi Butler, who has actually been a friend of mine for many, many years. And she's going to share with us her story that I remember, and I know it's been a while ago, but I remember it as if it was yesterday for me. So we've got Syndi Butler here. She was diagnosed years ago with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I am going to just ask her how, the same question we ask everybody, how has that cancer diagnosis and having had cancer changed the way that you live your life? And I'm just going to let her answer that and then tell her story.
Well, I'm sure you've heard it before. There's that kind of block in your life where it's before cancer and after cancer and the way you feel. So, and I was actually pretty young. I was 39 years old. My children were kindergarten, third and fourth grade. So they were relatively young. And 39 years old, active, healthy. I exercised 5 days a week. I was in great shape. But I had a nodule that, came up in my groin and just didn't, kind of take it seriously. Did eventually go to the doctor after about 6 months, and actually went to the gynecologist first, and they asked me, what came to be the same questions. Are you having night sweats? Have you been scratched by a cat? Because they thought that potentially I had cat scratch fever.
Right.
And no, I don't have night sweats. No, I'm not, nothing's going on. I'm just tired. I was tired. That was my gynecologist because of the lymph node was in the groin. And then I went to a medical doctor. Same set of questions, and she put me on antibiotics, and the antibiotics didn't take it away, didn't relieve it.
So nobody thought cancer at first?
Nobody thought cancer. Okay. And she finally sent me to a surgeon, and she said, I just want you to have it removed. The surgeon removed it, and when I went back, and after the surgery, he said to Ken, well, it was the size of a dill pickle, but it looked pretty good, so I think we're all right. So I went back for my 4-week checkup, and he said, well, you look really great, but it's kind of odd I don't have the results back, and I really apologize that we don't have the biopsy. So I said, it's okay, because you said it looked really good, so I'm all right, I feel good, life is awesome.
Yeah.
And then a week later, it was a Thursday afternoon. I can't even tell you the date, but it was sometime in March, I think, though. And it was a Thursday afternoon, though, and his office called, and they said that the surgeon would like to see you. Can we make an appointment for tomorrow morning? So I called Ken at the office, and I said, he wants to see me. And he goes, well, call him and tell him you just want the results now, because why wait till tomorrow when you know this is probably not going to be favorable results? So I called him back, and they put him on the line with me.
Oh, did they?
They did. And he said, nicest man, I wish I could remember his name, but and he said, I don't want to do this on the phone, but I care about you enough to give you the answer now. And he said, it's cancerous. And if you were my daughter, because he was old enough to be my dad, and he said, if you were my daughter, this is who I would have you see as an oncologist. And he said, I've already called him.
Oh, wow.
And he said, he is prepared to meet you at 9 a.m. tomorrow if you agree. And I said, okay. So Ken took the next day off, and we met Dr. Auerbach, which I loved him. He was, he was God sent to me as well. And I met him at 9 a.m. the next morning. I don't think that I had to do any more tests. He had already looked at my diagnosis.
Right.
And the reason it had taken so long was because they sent it to Gainesville. They biopsied it here, and it was like, they were just like, this doesn't seem like this is probably what it should be, for this age of a woman,
Sure.
So they sent it up to Gainesville, and that's why it took a little longer. So by the time he got the results, Dr. Auerbach did, he had already put together a plan of action for me for treatment. Yeah.
Okay, and then he was your oncologist pretty much through
He
until you retired.
He was. So lots of God breezes there too, and I don't really know how many details you want, but
whatever you want to tell.
So when I met him that morning, he was very adamant. You need chemotherapy. Again, he was looking at my age as well, and he said, you need chemotherapy, then we're going to follow with radiation. We're going to knock this out of you because you're so young. And typically with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, they follow spots in your body for your whole life. So his concern was, we're just going to knock this out. But that was the key point for me when he said, we're going to be following you your whole life, and we potentially will be chasing spots.
Right.
The chemotherapy portion of that bothered me. Again, because of my age, you can only take so much of that.
Sure.
And you're killing off good cells as well.
Yes.
The following week, I was supposed to start chemotherapy. And I went back into his office, and because they did it all in practice. And when I went in, it was the following Friday, and I said, I just don't want to do this. I don't want to do the chemotherapy portion. And in the meantime, I had also met with my neighbor from Fort Lauderdale, taught medical students medicine.
Okay.
And so I had already given her a copy of all of my records, and she had already reviewed them, and she had said the same thing. She's like, you need chemotherapy. You have to have chemotherapy. You have to have the radiation to follow. So that was kind of like my second opinion was through her.
Right.
But I'm just stubborn. I don't know, because I've had to fight Ken on this too. He was not happy about it. I just said I don't want to do it. So anyway, he went to the visit with me that Friday morning, and I just flat out said to Auerbach, I really don't want to do this. Give me another option, without chemotherapy. So God breathed again. He said, okay, we're going to pause, because I'm heading to Orlando this weekend for the National Lymphoma Conference.
Wow. Okay.
And he said, I will take your medical records, and I will talk to the specialists concerning lymphoma.
Right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So I said, okay. And then I had to promise Ken that if he came back from the conference and said, you will have, chemotherapy, that I would do it.
Right.
So he came back on Monday, and he called me, and he said, okay, you win.
Oh, okay. And I knew you didn't do chemotherapy, but I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure of all the backstory. So you just had radiation.
So
no
I ended up with
surgery
just
or anything other than the removal of the lymph node.
Yeah. So yes, and again, it was with the lymphoma specialists looking at it, and I don't understand all of that, but based on the type that I had, and just this, I was at stage 2, and yeah.
I was going to ask if did they give you a prognosis or anything, or just the stage?
So he didn't. No, I only got the staging, and at that time, Google and doing search engines was very new, because this was in 2002. So I remember coming home and being my own Google doctor and pulling it up, not finding anything positive.
Right, yes.
And I had to close out my computer and not look again because I was too young to not be hopeful.
Oh, absolutely.
And I had 3 children, and
And your personality is not one that looks at the negative.
Right. I'm not a woe is me at all.
Okay, so speaking of the kids, with them being so young, because when I was diagnosed, it was 2014. And so again, they don't give you a prognosis anymore.
Right.
I was wondering when you were, because I knew it was years earlier. Caleb was starting 9th grade, Luke was just starting his senior year. So that's a lot different than a 3rd grader and a 4th grader and a kindergartner. So how did you guys handle that?
Winging it. We didn't tell them in the beginning. we thought it was better to shelter them.
Mm-hmm.
But then a conference came up locally for children with parents that have cancer.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm sure it was Auerbach's office who encouraged me to take the kids. We did have to set them down and tell them, and Ken did it actually for me, which, you know, we were all in the same room together, and he's so calm and peaceful.
Right.
And yeah, so he actually told them, and then actually he did it at the event, right before the event was about to begin. It was at the aquarium.
Uh-huh.
And so we went outside on the picnic area, and he told them. So it's really sad for the kids that it was just kind of a shocker for them, and then we sent them off into rooms so they could talk about it.
So they could process and talk and all of that at the same time.
It was awful. But I will say that, so I really don't remember much about that day other than they were just too overwhelmed to really understand what was going on.
Sure.
I know that as the months went on, that, you know, Margot said a funny, which at the time processing, I really never let anything bother me, because I remember her asking Ken, she's like, so if mommy dies, do I get another mommy, you know?
Oh, yeah, because
So
she was the kindergartner.
She was the kindergartner, yeah. So I tried not to, and then I went through treatment. I'm trying to think of when it all started, because I know that by the time the children were out of school, I was probably just finishing up treatment. And so Logan had reminded me recently that he remembers going to one of my radiation appointments, because I went every day for 20 days, same time of day. You're seeing the same people in the office. And I also feel fortunate that at the time I was treated, I got to see Dr. Auerbach in his office. He was in private practice, so I only saw him. I only saw his nurse. I only saw, the same people in the office.
Yeah, so you had a good medical support system.
Oh, it was so, when I walked in the door, it was very compassionate greeting and so glad to see you. And I felt the same way when I did my radiology too, because Dr. Kepis was in private practice here in Brandon. And Dr. Auerbach had recommended her as well. And I loved her too. I remember, you run into the same people every day.
Yes.
My appointment was 11 o'clock. It's interesting how there's some details that you just don't forget. And Logan remembered today that he got to go with me, because that was one of the things. I wanted them to see the process and to see, it's one thing to come home and say, I had radiation treatment today. And for them to, well, what does that mean?
Exactly.
So I remember taking each of them at least once with me so that they could be in the room, or actually I guess they watched from the little room where the technician was, but so that they could see. And he remembered that, and this is going to probably get me going again, but he said, oh yeah, I remember meeting a woman and then you telling me the next day that she had died. And I will never forget Sharon. And that was she had breast cancer, and she had done chemotherapy, and it's interesting too, because he said, I remember she was an older woman. I chuckled today when he told me that story, because I said, you know what, she was probably my current age.
Yes, yeah, well that's what I was wondering, because as a fourth grader, that takes on, it's a whole lot different than, a grown man now, so. Interesting. Okay, so what got you through the hard days?
So I will say in probably the first 3 days were processing. And I remember thinking that it's like when you get pregnant, that there's nothing you can do about it. This baby's coming out. And that's the way I felt about cancer. There wasn't anything I could do about it. It was already in my body, so we had to face it. So I know I went 3 days at least with just dealing with the acceptance. And then that fourth day, I had a good cry. I finally had a good explosion of tears and just kind of had that release that my body probably needed.
Sure.
And of course, I've been praying all along. At some point, just became emboldened, the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. just giving myself permission to pray for what I wanted. And what I wanted was to be the person to raise my children, not another mommy.
Yes. and Margot is so thrilled that it was you, not another mommy.
Yeah.
She's told me that story about 3 times. I think it bothers her that her 5-year-old self said that.
Right. You know, and
because she gets it now.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I never made her feel bad even then, because there's no way for her to comprehend and understand.
Right.
But it was good. And then, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say, because I know that we're both people of faith, you know, that's how we know each other, is from church and everything. So you know that you had so many people praying for you.
Oh,
but
wow.
what was your specific prayer? Because I love this about your story.
Yeah. So it was Deb Dutton who actually was empowered me, and she said, "Girl, pray for your grandbabies. Pray to be rocking your grandbabies." And I did that. You know, that quick bit of hesitation of, you know, am I allowed to ask for so much? And then I went, you know what, you're right. And I prayed for the day that I would have good health and be sitting on a front porch rocking a grandbaby. And I asked for, asked.
Yeah.
I asked.
And that story, I remember exactly where I was sitting and what I was doing when you came in and said to me, this is what I prayed for me, and now this is what I'm praying for you.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow. You know, at that point, Luke was just getting ready to graduate, and I was like thinking, Caleb's in the 9th grade, am I going to see him graduate?
Right.
And when you came in and said that, I thought, okay, because tell the rest of your story. Because that was about the same time you were seeing Dr. Melchert, I believe.
Oh, okay. Was it around the same time?
It was within the same year, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So now I fast forward, I have a new oncologist. You know, I do my blood work every year. I have to see them, you know, every year. And I had moved beyond having to have PET scans every year. And I graduated from 3 months to 6 months to now yearly visits. So I saw her probably about year 15, 16.
Okay.
I had been told that I would be followed my whole life.
Right.
Because hot spots are supposed to happen.
Sure.
So I do my blood work, and, you know, she's a perky little doctor, and she's younger, and she says, you feel good. Your blood work looks good. She said, I don't think I need to see you anymore. I had another moment of hesitation. And I said to her, oh, really? And she said, you can come back next year, but I don't think you need to. And I said, I think I want to come back next year, which is so not like me and my personality.
Right.
But I said, I think I want to come back next year. And she said, okay. So I went back the following year. She took my blood work. How you feeling? I feel great. Your blood work looks really good. I don't think I need to see you. And I said, okay.
So you only went back that 1 year.
Yeah, I
And
did.
then she
I went back
released
one more
you from the
time.
practice.
She did. She did. And she said, if anything ever happens and you feel poorly, you know how you feel, come on in.
Yeah.
Just call me. I'll be there. Yeah.
See, to me, those stories like that, like when I see you, if you were to say to me, you know, well, 15 years ago, I was diagnosed, that's what got me through, were the people who had come out on the other side and were standing there saying, oh, and I'm looking at them thinking, oh, they look so healthy, they look so this, they look so that. And when I hear that, I'm like, there's hope for me.
Absolutely.
There's hope for me. Stephanie, will you get our little surprise?
I think too, also, I didn't have any doubt that my prayers were being heard. And I think, I agree with you. You mentioned that we both are faith-based. It is amazing how many people are praying for us.
Right.
You know, not only did I have this congregation praying for me, but I had the congregation that I just left 3 years earlier down in South Florida. But then you have the people that move away from you.
Yes.
And they're scattered all over the country.
Yes.
And with social media now, the word can get out.
Absolutely.
And there's that comfort
Yes.
in knowing that you're not begging God on your own.
Right.
That you have hundreds
You
of
have
people.
an army. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I got a Facebook message the other day from Melanie Barr in Scotland saying, just letting you know, we're praying for you. Well, here is our little surprise. Little baby Camden.
Yes.
So you want to tell us who that little guy is?
So this is my first biological grandchild, and his name, yes, his name is Camden, and he was born 5 weeks ago. He is a little miracle and precious as can be. You know, here I go again. I sat out, they have a swing on their front porch here in this house, and I sat on that swing, holding him in my arms, and I said my prayer of thanks because I didn't want to be like one of the 9 lepers who didn't go back and show gratefulness. I'm super, super grateful for this little guy.
I know you are. I know you are.
Yep. And Margot's pregnant. So
Yes.
I have my daughter is going to have a baby in 6 months, less than that. I don't know, March, whenever March is.
Yeah, I know. Time is away.
So I will get a boy and a little girl right out of the gate.
Yes, and you get to watch them grow up together, and that's so cool. Well, if you did not find this to be inspiring, I just don't know what would be inspiring, but we want to thank you again. I'm Becky, and we want to thank Syndi for being with us, and we want to thank you for joining in. If you like what you heard, then you can click the like button or subscribe, share, and you can share this little bit of hope with whoever in your life needs hope right now. Thank you.